welcome to another episode of the Revel Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Flo. Today we have a guest that joins us all the way from the other side of the world. He has a wide variety of interests and professional experience. To list a few, he's a business owner, engineer, photographer, and an adventurer. Welcome, my friend, all the way from South Africa, Simeon Combrink.
Hey Flo, how you doing?
Good. It's good to talk to you. It's
Yeah, it's nice to catch up again.
yeah, it's about 2:40 here. What time is it where you're at?
It's like 20 to 10.
22:10. So that's 10 o'clock p.m.
It was 9.
Oh, 9. Past 9.
So it's the way we talk. We say 22 or whatever.
So it's kind of interesting how I met Simeon. I randomly went to New York this past July on my own, just kind of on a whim. And I ran into a friend while I was there that we both didn't know we were going to be in New York at the same time. And so the next day we decided to get brunch, and she had a friend from California who knew Simeon. And yeah, just kind of connected Simeon to her. And so we all kind of met up for lunch, and me and Simeon started talking about business. He started talking about lions. Yeah, so it was just a random happenstance that we got to meet, but we really connected on faith and business and sense of humor. So I wanted to bring him on the show just because he has that wide variety of interests.
Yeah, I mean we met in New York, and I was about to fly back to South Africa, and I was like in the US for 3 months after I did like a motorbike trip there, or it was supposed to be like a remote work experience kind of thing. I got to California, and this guy that is a friend of a friend, another guy that lives in South Africa, he works for a California company, but he works remotely. And he just gave me this number of this guy. Actually, we had a couple of video calls previously because I did one small project for them. And he decided, no, he's going to borrow me his car. I've never met him in my life. I show up to the airport in Fresno, and there's this guy standing with like a sign, "Hey, Simeon, welcome," and there's like South African flags and everything. I felt like an African president. I was like, what the heck's going on? And he's just like super friendly. And he's like, no, 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 you can take my car and everything. About 3 days in, I was just driving through San Francisco, and I'm so happy. I've got the car, I've got the flags on the mirrors, cruising to California. It's like my first time in California, so it's amazing. And yeah, I don't know. Next thing you know, there's no more power, and the car breaks, and I'm like in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I think
man.
on a Highway 5 or something in the hot area there, in the valley or something. So then I'm stuck there, and then I called the lady that I was going to go visit, Tracy, and she was like, no, she's going to go save me. So she picks me up, and it turns out the engine completely seized. So then my car trip all of a sudden changed into a bike trip, because I was like, okay, I'm not going to buy a car. I'm definitely not going to buy a second-hand car because I already broke one. So then I decided, okay, listen, I'm just going to buy a motorbike, and then change this into a motorbike trip. So yeah, that's kind of how we met. We met at like the end of my US adventure bike trip. It was never planned to be a bike trip, but then I ended up seeing like traveling, I think it's 9,000 miles or 16,000 kilometers through the Western US.
Oh,
So yeah, it
man.
was quite a nice experience.
And you just kind of went
Yeah.
on a whim, right? Or, I mean,
So Tracy, she's a missionary in Mozambique, and she used to come live at our house. My parents used to let her stay and everything. So I knew her when I was in high school. She told me, when I was in high school, and that's a long time ago. I'm like 32 now, so I'm 31. She told me, one day you should come to California and you can borrow my truck and you can just go, check out, the US, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. 18 or 17 years old. And then beginning of last year, I was like, I decided I just want to go do something cool this year. And I just had this random thought of what she told me when I was in high school. And gave her a phone call and said, hey, Tracy, remember what you said 12 years back? I'm coming. And she was like, yes, come. And she was super nice. She let me stay in her place a bit. And yeah, it was quite a cool experience. So
and Tracy is the one that knew my friend Kamala. and Kamala and I were the ones who met
Yes,
up in New York, and then you got pulled into that as well, and that was fun, adventuring around New York,
yes,
going on the ferry.
exactly. Yeah, the ferry, that was quite cool. It was an amazing experience. So yeah, and that's how we ended up meeting. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I mean, seeing all those places, I didn't realize how beautiful the US actually was, especially like in terms of landscapes. And I really like wildlife and nature photography and stuff like that. So I didn't realize how beautiful some of those landscapes are that you have there, like
Yeah.
Glacier National Park and Utah and Arches, amazing places.
A lot
So
of it is
um,
pretty close to each other too, so you can kind of fit a lot of spots in a short distance, right? Relatively.
short. Oof, I don't know about the word short. I've never been in a place where you can drive like 1,000 kilometers north and just see pines all the time. You're just like, this is
Mm,
trees. It doesn't stop. So that was quite interesting for me. But yeah, that was a very cool journey. Yeah, I think it was just kind of an experience of like because I was an entrepreneur or like on my own for about a year and a half by then, and I was working online, and I just felt like, the reason why I kind of quit my job as an engineer was because I felt I got pretty bored and just having to always ask to go on leave or always having to ask to, can I can I go have an adventure? So I was like, so I'm working for myself now. So I mean, why not? Why not just take a massive risk, leave everything, and just go and see a new place and see America. So that was a very new experience for me. This kind of feeling of freedom where you wake up in the morning and you think, okay, where am I going to go today? You just
mm.
put your finger on the map and then you ride there. So kind of felt like one of those road trip movies. So
Yeah,
that was pretty fun.
that's so fun. Did you have a favorite spot that you found while you were here?
I had a couple. I would say one of the places I really liked was the Redwood National Park, because especially on a motorbike, you kind of ride through these trees
Mm.
and you can just look up, you can just pick your head up. There's no roof or anything, and you just see this massive trees. Like I've never seen such a thing in my life, and like there's fog, and it's so that was definitely one of the very cool places. Another place I really liked was Utah. The one night I slept in this, I don't know what it's called, close to Moab, but there's a place called Chicken Corners. So you can kind of ride between these canyons and stuff, with your bike. It's pretty crazy. If you miss a corner, I don't think you're going to make it.
Oh
But
man.
I ended up next to these massive canyons, and I was just sleeping there on my own, under the stars. Made a little fire. That was definitely an epic experience. Sleeping in Yellowstone, camping on Yellowstone on my own, just me, my bike, and my tent. That was also very cool. I mean, Africa, we've got lions, but at that point, I was pretty scared because I thought back about these movies I watched as a kid of all those bears and stuff,
Yep.
and I was like, no, I don't want to die, and I'm like just running to the bathroom, and I'm like thinking about the muesli bar, whatever I have in my tent. And like they told me I should put the food in the, I don't know what you call it, the bear box, or I don't know,
Yeah, bear
something, a metal
bag.
cage.
Hmm.
Yes, and I was like, I don't even have that. I'm just like, I just hope the bear doesn't come and try and grab me or. So that was the evening, and then the next day I'm like riding on the road with my bike, passing the bison. Like it feels so cool to go ride past the bison with the motorbike.
Mm.
They're right next to you. And I'm like, you can't do this in Africa. Quite Cape Buffalo will just kind of storm you and throw you off your bike. But then I saw all these people out, outside of their cars. I'm like, what's going on? And I see them walking into the woods, and then I asked them, what are you seeing? And they told me, no, there's like a bear, there's a grizzly. I'm like, you guys crazy? You're just getting out of the car and you want to like they try to take a photo of the bear. And I'm like, this is insane.
Wow.
But apparently the bear was like 50 meters away or something. And then like next thing you know, one of those park rangers come and he's like, doing the thing of like telling everybody to get back in the car.
Right.
So I was quite surprised. I didn't realize that you guys just jump out of the car when you see wild animals. But I guess
Yeah.
it's a herbivore, so maybe it's a bit. They don't always eat people. So there's
Well,
that.
but grizzlies are very aggressive. There's some species, there's different bears, like black bears they'll more likely run away, but grizzly bears usually stand their
Mm,
ground. I think the reason that people feel so safe to do that, not because it is safe, but because we have so many zoos and we see so many like safe places to go and see animals. So when you go and see them in real life, you think, oh, it's totally fine. It's like the zoo. Like one time I was in Mexico and I was walking past and there was a crocodile. I was on the sidewalk and the body of water was maybe like 3 feet or 1 meter away. And the crocodile was just on the beach. And I just was walking there and I thought, oh, wow, that is incredible, a crocodile. And then after I walked past, I thought, that could have been my life. Like that crocodile was so close.
You
It's so crazy. But I think like with
and
you,
it's a crocodile, not a gator. It's a crocodile.
well, in
So
Mexico, I'm not sure which one it was. It had a wider snout, so
they kind of look the same. I don't know, like but you've got crocodiles in America also, right?
we have both, I believe. But
Oh,
it
okay,
was just,
that's cool.
I think we just are used to zoos and areas where it's okay to kind of get closer. But for you, like
Yeah.
you go out and hang out with lion. Every time I look at your Instagram, it's a new video of lions or all these predator animals. And I know you're using a camera and you can, it seems like you're right next to them. And so when you're talking about people getting out and looking at this bear, I'm like, Simeon, that's what you do all the time, but it's different, right?
Yeah, I have been on foot where there are lions in the area, but it's in the day and they're quite far away. And in that area, they are used to people. So in the day, they'll be quite scared of people. But I wouldn't want to find a lion at night on foot. And also, like, ironically, there's some like animals I'm actually much more scared of, like elephants, for
Mm.
instance, on foot. They kill a lot more people than lions, and even hippos. Hippos are very aggressive. So a
And they're
lion,
fast too, right?
yes,
Hippos are
yeah,
fast.
yeah, hippos are very, very fast, yeah. So you don't want to get between them and the water. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just understanding animal behavior. To me, I don't really know much about bears. I just know everybody's got these bear spray. I'm like, how's that little pepper spray can going to chase away a big grizzly? I'm like, okay, cool. I guess it works.
It's a false
Um,
sense of security, I think. It's like,
Yeah, it's quite funny. So, but yeah, that was very interesting to look at your wildlife and your nature, and you've got a beautiful country.
I was going to ask because you were camping by yourself and riding around by yourself, the thought of bears and wildlife and all of that, if there were moments when you were scared, but it sounds like just going to the bathroom sometimes was a little scary.
There was actually some moments I got a little bit. There was one night in Moab also that at night, I decided I want to go look at the stars. So, sometimes at night I would like kind of, have a beer or whatever, sitting on my own, just enjoying the stars and just thinking about life. And then I decided, no, I'm just going to jump on this rock and just go lie on my back and look at the stars. So I did that. Then I was like, okay, I have to get down, but I didn't have a torch, anything with me. And then I'm like, oh Lord, I can't really judge how far the rock is that I jumped on to get onto that rock. So
Oh.
then I was like very scared because I can't see how far I should jump. And I was just like I don't know how to get down. But yeah, I just had to gather the courage to just make the jump and hope it goes well. So there was some moments. I wouldn't say, I have to be honest and say that growing up in in Africa and South Africa, it's a bit more. It's kind of not a bit more. It's probably a lot more dangerous, especially in terms of humans. There can be quite a bit of violence and crime, unfortunately, in Africa, South Africa sometimes. So I didn't feel, the one thing I felt there was I never really felt scared of other people, except maybe one time in Montana, there was these two guys that had an argument, and they were just having like a stupid argument. And then the one guy was like, "Let's settle this the Montana way," and the two went outside. And I'm like, what are you even arguing about? The next thing you know, this guy's putting his hand on his gun. He's got his gun. I'm like,
Oh,
why do you even go to a bar or drink with a gun? That doesn't
you know,
make sense.
it's
Then
illegal
I'm like,
actually.
okay, yeah, but maybe not in Montana. I don't know. But anyway, so that was like, okay, that was like, I thought that might be the more scary part, is just people being a bit crazy sometimes. But generally, I felt very safe. So, and the weird thing is, like, sometimes people would ask me, don't you feel lonely, being by yourself for so long? But the cool thing is, I met people on the way. I rode all the way from California up to Washington, and then I went across to like Glacier, and then down to Salt Lake City and Moab, and then I went to Colorado, and then I met another South African there that he used to work for Amazon. He like friends of my parents, so I stayed with them, and I kind of had like very chilled experience with them and their family, and I got some time to rest because you get pretty tired riding so far. I
Hmm.
mean, you're riding like 10 hours, 9 hours a day. And I've
Oh,
got
wow.
like a 60-liter hiking bag at the back of my bike. So I had this kind of peaceful experiences like spending time with people and meeting cool people. So yeah, so in nature, like I never felt, I actually had my birthday in Glacier
Oh, wow.
and I spent it with a squirrel, but I was happy. I was just me and the squirrel, like there in Glacier in the mountains. And I was like, I mean, this is one of my favorite birthdays I've ever had. And there wasn't any people around me. So I guess it's how you look at it, you know. So
A birthday with
uh,
a squirrel. That's amazing. That's the
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
wildlife that I appreciate. Squirrels, wildcats, whatever, but that's fun.
The
That's
one,
awesome.
the ones that don't kill you.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that are more afraid of me, but they're just fuzzy, so I want to be friends with them, but no, that's so fun. That's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
you packed a lifetime worth of adventure in that 3 months, it feels like, but you're not done.
I think to get back to the entrepreneurial topic and business thing, I don't think you can really split life and business and your personality. I think one of the biggest motivating factors for me to go on my own and leave my job. I mean, I spent around 7 years studying. I did my bachelor's in metallurgical engineering, then I did my honors and my master's. And then I worked in that industry, mineral processing industry and everything. Yeah, I think I was very like I started feeling very stuck. I was like, I've got a nice job, but then I got a project in this place kind of in the middle of nowhere, almost like a desert. Everything was kind of very comfortable. And then I got sent to this project where we commissioned a plant in this desert place. So I was one stage I had to do this stint where I had to work through the night. So I was like in a container, I'm like on this place working through the night. And then I would walk down 5 in the morning past this place where it's like this molten metal. And I would think, man, how did I end up here? You know, it felt like it almost felt a bit like, you know, hell at that point. Because
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping. I'm walking past this lava stuff every morning. And then I was like, you know, it's been a great experience, but maybe there's more to life. Maybe, you know, I would look in a reflection as I walk down and think, you know, is this me? Is this really who I am? I mean, I'm pretty happy. It's a good job. I've studied 7 years to do this. You know, things started getting very uncomfortable for me. And this one night, I kind of listened to this message about the courage to change course. That message really stuck with me because it's kind of easy to be an engineer and decide I'm an engineer in like in one town, I'm just going to go be an engineer in another town. I'm an engineer in South Africa. I'm just going to go be an engineer in America. That is a change, but I mean, the hardest change is to really change your course and say, I've spent like so much time of my life in this, but I'm going to let it go because I feel there's something else that I want. There's some adventure out there that I feel inside of me that I want to go find. Yeah, and I think to me that was really the thing that motivated me to let it go, like kind of let everything go and go look for something else. Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. But I think if I never took that step to try something else and go do something completely else, like I started going into software development. I did a little bit of software development at my company, current company at that time. But yeah, then I just decided, listen, I'm just going to go do something else. So what I would say is the thing that motivated me was always adventure. I have to go and I have to feel this feeling of liberation and freedom. I think people, for us as like humans, we haven't always been this kind of group that have just found that stay in the same place. I think some of us have this thing inside of us where we feel I have to go, I have to go, I have to go out there and see what is there, and I have to go explore. And I think I had that thing inside of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I probably had two choices: either I ignore it and live to regret it the rest of my life, or I answer that call to adventure or call to whatever. I don't even know what it was. I just felt it so strongly inside of me that I have to do something else. Yeah, I think that leads you to roads that or places that you think you'll probably never see or never end up. You know, I didn't imagine, 3 years ago that I would ever be in the places that I went to or like. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and like you said, it's only getting started.
It is really intimidating to find that big of a change too, because like you said, you were in a good spot with your career, comfortable living, but you couldn't ignore the call to the wild, you know? I think it's cool to hear that kind of story because a lot of people, like you said, can kind of get caught up in their comfortability and their way of living and maybe they have that same call too, but the unknown is so scary. So it's good to hear a story where you actually took that call, even though it was, the unknown. Yeah, you're on the other side to tell the tale of how good it's been and that you're glad you did it. I feel like sometimes it's easy for me to get into a rut almost because I know it's going to happen the next day and the next day, but you lose out on a lot when you stick with that kind of mindset.
And I think a catalyst, if you're very comfortable, it's very hard to make that decision. But if there's discomfort in your life, discomfort can come in different forms. It might be a failed relationship. To me, it was a couple of different factors. I came out of a kind of a long relationship at the time. It's been like a while after that, and I went to that, like I said, to that desert place almost. And I started losing all the creature comforts I had that made me cope in everyday life and feel, everything's good. But when everything was gone, all those creature comforts were gone. I realized I'm not good. I'm not happy. I'm kind of slightly depressed in a way. And then that's when I made the realization that I have to do this. It's easy to ignore your feelings when you've got all this stuff distracting you, like I'm not saying it's bad, obviously those things are good things, but sometimes they can distract you so much that you feel I'm completely fine, but you might not be fine if you take them away.
It's easy to get into the go, go, go mentality and keeping your head down that you forget, like you said, to kind of look around. I was just reading something today where I need to look up the quote because I'll butcher the quote if not. But it was essentially talking about we're so stimulated all the time and we're constantly driven to produce more that we overlook other possibilities and we end up getting like burnt out rather than slowing down our pace. Like something I notice a big difference between, I don't know a ton about South African culture, but just from talking with you, I feel myself being like, okay, this. And then you really are introspective. You take your time, you formulate your thought, and then you share it. And I think that speaks so much to like a cultural element. I love America. We're not bashing on America, but I do feel like we're like checking our watches, like, come on, we gotta move. We've got, stuff to make. For you, it's like you take things in, you digest it, and you don't rush it. And that's something I appreciate about you. So I don't know if that's culturally what you guys do in South Africa. You more take time.
No, definitely. I mean, I come from the low felt. Some people call it the slow felt. So it's definitely like a warm culture. Everybody's kind of, a bit more relaxed. And, Africa also, a lot of people in Africa just kind of have the day to work. When the sun sets, they have to go spend time with their people around them and families and stuff like that. So I would say we definitely have a lot more of a chilled and community orientated culture, especially some of the other countries around us, like Mozambique. In the cities in South Africa, it's very like kind of big cities, and we can be quite fast paced. But there's so many places in Africa where things are still very, people are basically still living off the land. So
Hmm.
if you have that type of thing around you, you kind of also observe that, and you feel it does calm you down. It does kind of slow you down a bit and make you think about this day might only be about enjoying my lunch and just enjoying my day. And I think to me, it's something I also learned in university studying so much. And just my dad used to say, like, what are you going to do that's fun today? And I kind of have that mindset, instilled of what am I going to do that's fun today? And if you're just busy all the time doing stuff you hate, there's nothing fun today. And I think that's a way to start becoming more and more like unhappy. But if
Mhm.
you always have something today or tomorrow or the weekend that's fun, I mean, to me, it's a very motivating thing to think, oh, 3 weeks from now, I'm going on another bike trip with a bunch of guys. And it might be different things for different people, but I think that also definitely helps to slow you down. I felt
Mhm.
like the people in Colorado were a bit slower, definitely. Not like
Yeah.
slow mentally, just mean like they
Right.
also were talking slower. I think they were quite close to the mountains and everything, so they were also like super chilled. So I think you also,
Definitely.
I think you also have some chilled people there.
They have a lot of really fun outdoor nature activities to do. And so they're probably in that same mindset in Colorado generally. There's a lot of space between cities too, so they get to pause and take time to go and enjoy. And when you were talking about when you went to Moab and you just wanted to go look at the stars, and there was something else that you said where you were just thinking about life, or you would look in your reflection and you're just thinking about things. I'm like, he hasn't talked about picking up his cell phone or playing a new video game or anything like that. Like, you're genuinely enjoying the experience of living, which is really cool. In this day and age, like, we have access to entertainment always, but being able to pause and actually take in entertainment that's more life-giving, like nature and things like that, so important. So it's really cool that you have that perspective.
Yeah, and on a motorbike, it's also kind of, you can't scroll through Instagram while you're riding like 90 miles on the highway or something,
Yeah.
unless you want to die. So
Oh, right.
you have to focus. You have to like, you can listen to the music and you just going through the corners and you have to kind of forced to be in the moment. I think that's also a big factor. It forces you to reflect on your life, to look back on the things that you've done, the good things, the bad things, the people you've loved, the people you've lost. I mean, listening to music for like, that amount of time and just thinking for that amount of time, it's almost like defragging your brain and just going through all that stuff that, maybe that's been bothering you. I think a lot of people, like you say, in today's world, we just keep going. We always just keep going and we always focus on our goals. But I think sometimes we have to kind of let our emotions also just go through us and, see what God wants to show us, or if you don't believe in God, what is inside of you, and that what you have to give attention to. And I think there was a lot of thoughts on that journey that came to me, and I was definitely able to make a lot of peace with certain things that were bothering me for kind of a long time. I didn't realize even it was bothering me so much, but I was forced to make a lot of peace with those things and to get closure on certain things. And people say time will heal, but if you just throw it at the back of your head and never think about it, how will time heal it? You have to go through that journey. It's almost like going through the snow, going through the desert. I mean, at one point I was going through the Mojave Desert. It was like, I can't say in degrees Fahrenheit what it was, but it was like, there was like warnings on Google Weather to say, don't go there, you can die. It's like extreme weather warnings. You have this massive heat wave.
Oh, you can say
And like, it was like
Celsius
super
if you if
Celsius.
you
That was like 47 degrees Celsius. It was like,
dang.
I've never felt, it felt like I was going through like a oven or something.
Oh,
I've never felt heat like that in Africa. It was insane. You go through this like, there was like times I felt like I was gonna freeze. Driving up to Washington. I had to put my hands on my exhaust and just try and. I felt like my fingers are getting frostbite, and I would just
oh,
like defrost my fingers. And like, it's that journey is the same in your mind. You've got this amazing moment seeing these mountains like in Glacier, but I think, our lives are the same and our emotions are the same. We have to sometimes go back through the things that happened to us, and things we've experienced, and also, experience them again and like kind of understand what has happened to us, and where do we want to go? I think if you want to do your own thing and you want to go and have a business, I would say the best thing that you need is a vision. A business plan is great, but I think a vision is the most important thing that you can have. And I don't think you can have a vision without giving yourself the opportunity to dream and time to dream and just think about things and think about life and think about your own life.
because if you don't really get a chance to take time to know yourself, you might just be siphoning off someone else's vision, and then 10 years from now realize it wasn't something you wanted to do at all, and you were just pulling it from another source. So I've been mentioning this quite a few times about how taking time to slow down and rest, which is something that I need to do too, is part of being productive. Over here, it's like, what can you produce? What are you able to bring to the table? When I think you get to be creative, you get to have those moments. Oh, that was my Siri. You get, could you hear it? You get to have those moments and true vision when you take time to slow down. Resting, I think slowing down, getting to know yourself, processing emotions is the most productive thing you can do.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely about that, but I also think that when you go to these places and go experience certain things and look at certain things in nature, just the landscape, there's something sometimes within a landscape and something that you look at that cannot be communicated in words. Somebody can tell you about it. You can listen to this now and you can say, okay, it sounds cool, I've heard about it. But if you go there and really go experience it yourself, it might have, a message for you almost. I can say it's kind of weird, like God created that place, and you just look at it, and there's something that goes into you that you can't really explain. And it's not about what you do. It's just about experiencing that. And I think that's one of the greatest things of, being alive, is just experiencing that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we were made to enjoy things. Like, I definitely think we are also made to help cultivate and come up with new ideas and be creative, because that's how God is. But I also think there's no other reason than that we're created to enjoy. Like, flowers wouldn't smell good if we weren't meant to enjoy them. Food wouldn't taste good if we weren't meant to enjoy them. So, to your point, I think there's got to be an element where we are able to enjoy the human experience, enjoy creation. And like you said, it feeds you in a way.
Mm, yeah, no, definitely. And just to make some closing statements about like listening to that call of adventure and taking the courage or having the courage to change course. The thing about change is it's painful. It's always painful to change direction. It takes force to change direction. I mean, there was a lot of sacrifices that I had to make. I mean, I was staying in a nice bachelor's pad. I had to give that up. I had to give up a lot of like cell phone contract, this and that. I had to move back in with my parents. Honestly, that was actually great, moving back to my parents' place and like after 10 years being back with my dad and starting to ride motorcycle with them. And, but there's a lot of sacrifices I had to make, and I had to cut back on a lot of stuff because I wasn't making, hardly making any income for almost 8 months. So I had to have that reserves, almost that runway. Like a plane, you need a runway to take off. So you need to make sure that you give yourself enough runway, but also accept that, it's going to change. Some things are not going to be easy, maybe, and some things might be painful, but you also might be surprised that if you live without certain things and all of a sudden it doesn't bother you anymore, like, oh, I don't actually need that so much. So yeah, it's not without challenges. There's a lot of challenges also, but if it's like being true to who you are and following your destiny and following a destiny that you believe you have to follow, I don't think you can really regret that decision. It's very difficult to, because you can always tell yourself, oh, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And I heard this cool thing that Jeff Bezos said, that what made him the decision to go do his book thing, that's on Amazon, was he did this thing called the regret minimization framework. And I really like what he said there. He said, like, if you're 80 years old one day and you look back at your life, what decisions are you going to regret the least? And that's the decisions you should make. And I think that's really true. I think it's different. For all of us, it's different. It's not about money. It's for all of us, there's a different thing that's put inside of us that we have to listen to it. And it can change and it keeps on evolving. But I think we have to be sensitive to what that is. And I think it's different for all of us. And I hope whoever might hear this, that you would also listen to that call.
You're so wise, Simeon.
No,
That's
I'm not
so
wise.
wise.
I've made millions of mistakes. That's why.
You've learned the lesson, so maybe whoever hears this won't
Yeah,
have to.
yeah, I've bumped my head so many times. So yeah, no.
Before we close, you want to speak about what you're doing with I'm Not Plastic?
Yeah, we've got a company called I'm Not Plastic. Our
Oh,
mission
yeah.
is to reduce single-use plastics, and there's another green tech called Full Food 2050. But if anybody's interested in that, they can just maybe send me a message, whatever. And we're also doing software development or business applications for companies. So there's a couple of different things that I do. It really depends what it might not even be a business. It could be anything. I think for all of us, we've got a different thing we have to do. For me, it's these little businesses and startups I'm busy with. It really makes me happy to try and make a difference or like develop applications and this and that. I think all of us have something that we are meant to work on.
Such a good perspective. I'll tag all of the like social media accounts so they can find I'm Not Plastic, and they also can find your safari pictures, your wildlife photography.
Yeah, I
If you'd
mean,
like.
if you guys want I'm Not Plastic water bottle, hit me up. It might change your life.
It'll change the world.
So you can change the world at water bottle.
Well, Simeon, thanks for
uh,
joining all the way across the world. It's always good chatting with you, and hopefully I'll make my way to Africa at some point.
yeah, please come visit. It'll be awesome.
All right, I'll talk soon.
Okay,
Bye.
cheers.